Alright, please don't forget, if you are watching this video on Edpuzzle, that you need to watch it all the way to the end if you want credit. In terms of this lesson here, which is 1.2a, which is about inequalities, we've seen the equal sign, which looks like this, of course. We know this symbol represents that two sides have the same value. Of course, equals means same value. When an equal sign is used to connect two sides, it's typically called an equality. Again, the easy way to know equality is the equal sign is because if you look at the word equality, it has the word equal in it. A couple equalities here is that 2 plus 7 equals 9, because we know that that equals 9. It has the same value as 9 itself. Later on, you'll see something like this, which is also an inequality, which is that this would have the same value as 10. Our job later on will be to figure out what value here makes this true. And of course, if you want this to be 10, what would you add to 8 to be 10? And of course, you could probably figure out that that would be a 2. So 2 plus 8 would be 10. And so again, that either way is an equality, not inequality, but it's an equality because it has an equal sign to represent it. There are 4 other types of symbols that are used in algebra, and these are called inequalities. So the greater than symbol, and you might want to write these 4 down just for yourself on the back of your bell ring or on your notes or whatever it might be. The greater than symbol looks like this. Again, you think you've seen this before for years, but the difference is now you have to actually have to remember this stuff. The less than symbol looks like this. All right, greater than or equal to is pretty easy to remember as long as you know what greater than looks like. So we have the greater than portion, but it says or equal to. Now when you think about the or equal to, go back to what an equality looks like and notice that an equality has a line under, or has 2 lines. So what you do to make it or equal to is you simply put 1 line under it. So this would be greater than or equal to. Less than or equal to works the same way, where you take the less than symbol and add the equal to portion to it to make it what it needs to be. So again, those are the 4 symbols that you're going to need to make sure you know today for your worksheet, among other things, while you're working in class. But again, just make sure you got those jotted down and that you understand what they look like. Pause the video, of course, as you need to get that stuff written down in an effective way. You will have to find a way to remember which sign is which. I typically connect the less than symbol with the letter L. Let me see if I can find the thing that I had for you, which I probably lost it knowing me. Give me a second. Let me pause the video. All right, I had to go destroy another one of my wife's paper clips, is what you call it. This is the letter L, if you ask me. So that's the letter L, and what I do with that letter L is I imagine that letter L being bent and turned, and that is where I see that the L is a less than symbol. Even though the L on the less than is actually bent more like this, I can still imagine this kind of being an L just with a bent top and just turn sideways. So if you're asking yourself in terms of which one is which, I typically connect the less than symbol with the L because it starts with a L, and so if I want to know which one is which, I just go to the less than. I don't really think about the greater than part, and I just use process of elimination for that. So if you're asking yourself which one looks more like an L, obviously this is backwards, so it has to be that one. So that would be less than, which therefore means this has to be greater than. When using these symbols to create or compare two values, many of us were taught that the symbol eats the bigger value. They were taught that it was an alligator or something else. Today we're going to use easier values, but I would try to get a grasp on this because the values will gradually increase in difficulty. Let's look at some examples before moving on. Again, if you're on Edpuzzle, please choose the answer that you believe is correct. That way I can kind of view your progress as you go through it. So on your screen, which represents the symbol less than or equal to? So go ahead and select that if you need to. If you are on just general YouTube, go ahead and think about the symbol, pause it, write it down, and see if you're correct. If you did this right, less than, if you remember, means it looks like an L, so it would be this one. And then don't forget about the equal to portion, which means that there should be a line under it. You do not want to write this as less than or equal to because that's just less than. Less than or equal to, as we'll learn, has a little bit extra to it that we have to kind of keep in mind. Second question. Insert these 2 symbols to make the statement true. Now, we didn't talk about this directly, but of course, I think you've seen it before. And again, I think I did explain that what it does. So try to see if you can figure out what answer will make this true. If I said that this was a symbol that eats the bigger number, 100, you could have 100 somethings or 85 somethings and you're being greedy. You're going to, of course, eat or choose to eat the 100 somethings. In other words, remember that this means less than. This is telling me that 85 is less than 100, which is true. All right. And then the last one. Again, if you're thinking about this as a symbol that eats the bigger value, it would eat the 37, which would be one way to do it. Or if you remember the wording on what that is not an L, which means that's greater than, and this reads that 37 is greater than 15. So just make sure you got those done. And again, if you're on Edpuzzle, don't forget you need to answer the final question that's going to pop up after I quit speaking. That's going to give you credit. If you do not answer the last one, it actually shows up as a blank part, which I don't even know if you've started or anything, and I have to put a 0 on the book if that's the case. Outside of that, make sure you get a hold of me if you have any issues with anything on this paper. Make sure you work as hard as you can to learn today's stuff, because we are moving on every single day to something new. The purpose of this class is to give you a chance to kind of get things understood. But outside of that, go ahead and complete the video or answer the final question that's about to pop up, and good luck today.